But first, to breaking news, and at least 2 shootings spanning the Gresham-Portland border tonight. Gresham police saying they responded to reports of gunfire exchange between 2 vehicles this evening near Northeast Gleason and 167th, and then again near Pat Pfeiffer Park a short time later. Portland police also responded to Gleason and 148th in what appears to be a related call. Authorities say at least 2 people were injured and taken to the hospital from 2 different locations. So far, no word on any suspects or arrests. Thanks for joining us. I'm David Molko. New at 11, a medical emergency on the Springwater corridor where a man was cycling to work when the next thing he knew, he was on the ground and then in the hospital. Catherine Cook's in the newsroom. So, Catherine, what do we know?
David, he's mostly healed up now and really wants to thank people who helped him. This could have ended up very differently, and he's grateful to those who went out of their way to make sure it didn't. On the Springwater corridor, you never know who you'll cross bike paths with.
All walks of life.
Chris Riedman would love to know whom he encountered here the morning of August 8th, but he wasn't conscious at the time.
And I just want to say thank you. I'm blessed that someone, took the time. They called medical for me. They mailed my wallet back to me. They turned my phone in.
Riedman was riding his bike to work as he does every morning when he suffered a seizure near Southeast 4th and Ivan. When he came to, he saw police officers hovering over him.
I vaguely remember them helping me into what I assume was an ambulance, and then I lost consciousness again.
At the hospital, Riedman learned he'd suffered a broken nose, a broken orbital, and had more than 40 stitches across his face.
Seeing the mirror, I started crying because I didn't know if my face was ever going to look the same. And it hurt like heck.
But he was alive. And back on the trail, someone picked up Riedman's cell phone at just the right moment.
My work had been calling my phone, and someone answered it. They said they could turn it in to my work. And I was out for a week, and when I came back to work, they had my phone.
Who does that?
I just want to say thank you to whoever that was.
And to the person who found and returned his wallet.
He gets a package with my name from Lewis and Clark College, and she opened it for me, and it was my wallet.
Riedman's family gifted him this new bike. He didn't get his old one back, but someone did.
They needed it more than I did.
And Riedman needs to share this. He wasn't wearing a bike helmet the day of the crash.
Now I always wear my helmet while riding my bicycle, and I would suggest that you do the same.
His way of thanking everyone he crosses paths with now. A reminder that there are still good people in this world. Riedman says his crash has not discouraged him from biking to work. He says that commute is his favorite part of the day. David.
Glad to see he's okay. Still a lot of good people, mostly good people in this world. Thanks, Catherine. To get you caught up on tonight's other headlines, Providence Seaside is closing its birth center, ending labor, delivery, and newborn services. The hospital says the decision came after a drop in the number of births, along with staffing challenges. Providence says local families can still access maternity care at Columbia Memorial and Astoria Birthing Center. The Oregon Nurses Association, the union that represents a dozen nurses at the center, says the cuts will extend ER wait times and harm caregivers and patients. The center is set to close October 4th. Well, we now know the name of the teenager who drowned last week in the Columbia. The Clark County Medical Examiner's Office saying 16-year-old Anthony Tarnowski of Battleground died last Wednesday while swimming near Frenchman's Bar. A bystander tried to save him, but says the current swept the teen downstream. The sheriff's office warns there is a drop-off in the river about 10 to 15 feet from the shoreline where the current quickly picks up. To the Willamette now, where health officials say it is once again safe to swim. The Oregon Health Authority lifting its toxic algae advisory for the Ross Island Lagoon all the way downriver to the Wapato Bridge and Kelly Point Park. Testing confirmed levels of cyanotoxins in the water are now below recreational guidelines. Officials say, though, still look out for the algae bloom since they can develop anytime, especially when it's warm. And a traffic heads up. The Hawthorne Bridge will be closed part of the weekend to all cars, bikes, and pedestrians for inspection work. The bridge will close Saturday at 3 p.m., then reopen at 6 the next morning. It'll close the same time Sunday afternoon and then reopen on Monday morning. The Morrison, Burnside, or Ross Island bridges are all good alternatives there. All right, call it a 1, 2, 3 punch. We're talking about a new KGW investigation into a homeowner's nightmare and a warning for other local families after a winter storm, a burglary, and then an insurance surprise. Here's investigative reporter Kyle Aboshi.
Basically, everything in this room had to be replaced.
Months of renovation and repair work hide the scars that Shuju Wong and Mike Coleman's home suffered in January of last year.
This area had a lot of water damage.
Their place in West Portland Park took a direct hit during a severe winter storm.
It looks like one tree went into the upstairs bedroom, and that's probably what also crashed into the other bath.
Ice and wind brought down several huge branches and trees, busting through their ceiling and smashing the floor.
I mean, it's raining and snowing right into the house.
One of the trees took out the water line, so we had water gushing downstairs. So we had water damage upstairs and downstairs.
They packed up and left, but while they were gone, burglars broke in.
You can't secure the house. It's got trees cutting through it and everything. And, you know, it's probably a really tempting target because, you know, there's no one living in there.
Days later, police made an arrest and recovered some of the items, but a lot of the stolen stuff was gone. Investigators said it had been sold off.
They burglarized several homes around here, so it wasn't just us. They went around the neighborhood, they figured out which house they could get in, and they burglarized a whole bunch of people.
The Portland couple hoped to put this whole mess behind them. They filed a claim with their insurance and hired a contractor to fix the damage. But their problems didn't go away. In May, with all the repairs nearly complete, Shuju and Mike got a letter from State Farm Insurance explaining the company cannot continue this policy because of the overall claim activity. In short, State Farm suggested it was still going to cover the claim for theft and storm damage, but going forward, Shuju and Mike had to find some other insurance.
It seems like they shouldn't be able to do that, to cancel you until your claims are all closed, because they're making it really hard for you to find somebody else.
And sure enough, several companies declined to provide coverage.
The 2 claims in 1 year is one strike against you, but the open coverage thing is another.
State Farm wouldn't talk specifics, citing customer privacy. But in a statement, the company explained how decisions are made whether to insure property. We look at each customer's situation on a case-by-case basis. State Farm considers factors such as the location of the property relative to natural hazards, condition of the property, and the customer's past claim activity and history.
It's just, you know, you against this corporation.
With nowhere else to turn, Shuju and Mike enrolled in the Oregon FAIR Plan, state-sponsored insurance for property owners who can't find coverage anywhere else. This option of last resort has seen a growing number of policies in recent years as insurance companies have raised premiums, canceled policies, or left the state altogether.
Especially with the climate change and stuff like that, I think that a lot more people are going to run into situations like this where they lose their coverage.
The renovation is finished, but for Shuju and Mike,
You know, any paperwork I kept in a file.
the red tape and canceled insurance policy have created damage no contractor can repair. Kyle Aboshi, KGW News.
Well, Shuju and Mike say they are still going back and forth with State Farm after the company cut a check for home repairs that was far less than the contractor invoice. And because their claim is still open, the Oregon FAIR Plan remains their only option. Okay, let's take a live look outside on this Tuesday night. Really another beautiful day, though, with some extreme heat not far off. Celine Stevens tracking the timeline and a weather impact alert in your first forecast. Celine.
David, definitely. Yeah, we're really going to see things start to heat up in just the next 48 hours or so. But today was a nice one. We have about one more day of that left. Right now, sitting at 67 degrees, those winds going at 9 miles per hour. Temperatures across the map, nice and mild. We're seeing a lot of 60s right now, 68 in Troutdale and in Vancouver, 65 in Hillsborough. Again, lots of 60s. We're looking at 50s along the coast as well. Looks like 57 degrees in Newport, low 60s in Tillamook and Astoria. And so we're going to continue to see overnight lows like that in the 60s, but it's the daytime highs that are going to get even higher as we get toward the end of our week. But looking at our futurecast right now, we are going to have some clouds moving in overnight. In the morning around 5 a.m., we're going to be dealing with some cloud coverage in our area all the way down to Salem and all the way up north. Looks like along the coast they're going to be a little cloudy too, just like today. The good news is by around noon that clears up. Even the coastal areas getting to see some sunshine, and of course we get to stay nice and dry as well. So tomorrow, after those clouds fade out, we are going to be seeing pretty sunny conditions, but again, it's the temperatures that everybody's worried about. But as for tomorrow, temperature-wise, we're looking at starting off our day in the low 60s. By around noon, we're in the mid 70s, and by end of day, we should be in the low 80s, so it'll be a warm one. It's after that, for the weekend, we're going to see that KGW weather impact alert and some excessive heat. We'll break it down in a bit.
Glad we got the 80s for tomorrow. Thanks, Elaine. Developing this evening, a South Portland resident who sued the city saying police were not enforcing noise rules outside the neighboring ice facility says she is now considering more legal action. Cloud Elvin Grail lives in the apartments right across the street. A judge, though, turned her down, essentially ruling the judge, would not override police discretion. The plaintiff's lawyer calling it a blow to everyone in the neighborhood.
Kind of a cyclical pattern. Every night, the rioter protesters are acting well beyond what free speech laws allow. They are violating all kinds of time, place, manner restrictions. And
the lawyer there adds her client is not giving up. The mayor's office says it appreciated the court's, quote, thoughtful consideration. In an update this evening, a Washington mom and her 6-year-old are back home after being detained by ICE for 3 weeks. As we first reported, Sarah Shaw from Everett, who works for the state, though is a New Zealand citizen, was held with her 6-year-old son at a detention center in Texas. The pair had dropped off 2 of her kids at the Vancouver, BC airport to fly to see family, though when they tried to cross back into the U.S., they were detained because of a visa issue.
I was like the minority in that situation. Most of the people that were there spoke Spanish. If I needed to go to the bathroom, Isaac was there yelling at me outside the stall. If I wanted to take a shower, he had to come with me. So it was like we were like completely like joined to the hip.
While ICE released Shaw without her documents, she told us she'll need to appear in court to get this all resolved. She's also working with an attorney to get an ankle monitor removed. To some big news tonight in the media industry involving KGW and our parent company Tegna. Competitor NextStar announcing a deal to acquire Tegna for $6.2 billion. So it formed the nation's largest local media company and put KGW and Coin TV, the CBS affiliate, under the same corporate ownership. If shareholders and regulators approve it, the expanded company would reach nearly 80% of U.S. households with a presence in 9 of the top 10 TV markets. Here is NextStar CEO this morning on CNBC.
Our goal is to become a big company, a bigger company, and hopefully be able to compete on a level playing field with big tech that is pervasive in all aspects of media.
Well, the FCC and the Justice Department still need to approve the deal.